If everybody could take their seats. All right. I want to welcome you to the annual Democratic County Chairman's Brunch. I wish that you could stand up here with me so you could see how spectacular you all look. I see great Democratic friends from across the state representing all 102 of our counties. My name's Doug House, and I am the president of the Illinois County Chairmen's Association and the chairman of the Rock Island County Democrats. My peeps out there. It's my honor to lead this organization as we work hard to winning big this November, and we will win big. At the Democratic National Convention, we heard the expression, stronger together, many times. Stronger together. And that's what I believe in. Here in Illinois, the Democrats are strong because we work together. And you will hear from some of our outstanding leaders shortly about working together. But to begin the program, I want to demonstrate what stronger together means here in Illinois. First off, I'd like to ask the members of the Illinois Democratic County Chairman's Executive Committee of the Chairmen, would you please stand? Please stand to be recognized. These are, thank you, and remain standing, please. These are all of the folks that set the agenda for our organization, and I'd especially like to recognize the first Vice President, Billy Halstead, for all he does to help lead our organization, and our Treasurer, Dennis Fisher, for their commitments and all that they do. Now remain standing. Next, I'd like to invite the county chairs, the remaining county chairs that are here from across the state of Illinois, from Chicago to Cairo and Metropolis. Please, all of the chairmen, please stand up. Remain standing. Now, as chairman, we're nothing without our precinct committeemen, and that's absolutely critical that we have their participation. So with the precinct committeemen, anyone who is a precinct committeeman, please stand. Volunteers across the state of Illinois moving for Democrats. Now remain standing, please. I want to thank them for their leadership. Now next, if you're a candidate, if you've ever run for office, or you're going to be working for a candidate for the first time this election cycle, stand up. Stand up, everybody. Now look around. This is what it means to be working together in Illinois. We're all working together, and the team is in the house today. The Illinois Democratic County Chairmen's Association has come a long way in 50 years of our organization's history. For years, our organization has been known for the Chairman's Brunch. While the brunch will continue to be a staple of this organization and a wonderful kickoff to our Democrat Day, we're expanding the mission of the Chairmen's Association to provide more resources to our county chairs, our precinct committeemen, and the candidates that we help to run across the state. This year alone, we've conducted many in-depth precinct committeemen's trainings throughout the state, and there will be more trainings across the state before the November election. We've started a monthly newsletter that focuses on campaign and issues training, and we've assisted in recruiting and filling over 1,000 precinct committee positions across the state. Now, thank you. Now, obviously, we're concerned and our focus is on this election cycle in front of us, but make no mistake, we have a 3-year plan here, and it doesn't include Bruce Rauner after 2018. He's gone. The Illinois Chairmen's Association is committed to a solid 3-year plan, and it doesn't have an off year in it because we can't afford one. We don't have his money, but we have you, and if we work in between now and 2018, there's no way that he can stop us. As our county, thank you. As all of our county chairmen know, we'd not be where we're at today without the support of our families. I'd like you to help me and acknowledge my wife, who is here today, and my son, Kim and Tom House, where they at, right out here, for all they do to support me, or I wouldn't be able to do this. All good organizations are run by a strong behind-the-scenes team These are individuals who've made today possible. First, our executive director, amazing guy, Dan Kovacs. Where are you at, Dan? Dan has put the shine on our apple, and we are really proud to have him on our team. Second, our ad book co-chairmen, Chairwoman Doris Turner of Sangamon County and Dennis Fisher from Shelby County. They did a great job with our ad book. You have them on your table. Third, our raffle ticket chairman, Brant Patterson from Richland County. Yep, Brant. And our fundraising team. We had a great fundraising team. They're working hard for us all the time. Nancy Cohn and Christina Nowinski. They've just done a great job. Nancy, Christina, thanks for all you do. It's really appreciated. But last but certainly not least on our team is someone that I think everyone in this room refers to as Mr. Democrat. And we would be just a boat in the river without an oar if it wasn't for Mr. Democrat, Bill Houlihan, and all the work that he does for this organization. We are so thankful for all that he does. It also takes a team of committed volunteers to pull off an outstanding event like the Chairman's Brunch, and I want to recognize all of our volunteers. We have a lot of partners, but we had some volunteers step up and help us today. The volunteers from the College Democrats. We're reaching out to young people and getting more of them involved. The College Democrats and the Sangamon County Democrats really helped us out a lot, and we really like to give them a show of appreciation. Our party, the Democratic Party, especially here in Illinois, works closely with our brothers and sisters in organized labor. They are the backbone of the Democratic Party, and that's much to Governor Rauner's dismay. He'll never break our resolve or our commitment to fight or work with organized labor because they make up the middle class in our state, and they help keep our state strong and healthy moving forward. I want to call your attention to our ad book. If you look in your ad book, it has a lot of great information. We had a wonderful committee put it together. But on the back of the ad book is a reference to the amendment that's going to be on the ballot coming up. And this is the Safe Roads Amendment. It's important. It's important to you because it's important to middle class and it's important to labor. And we need them to know that we're going to go out, we're going to work hard for that amendment. It's going to be on the top of the ballot. And we want to try and pass it. We appreciate your help in doing that. Again, we thank our brothers and sisters in the labor movement for their support, and we'll continue to stand with them for fairness and for justice. I'd like to take a moment as we celebrate our party's diversity and that we're stronger together, but it's also important to remember that we've lost great leaders in our cause. This year, we saw the passing of great people that we knew and that we loved, as people like Barb Brown, our Randolph County Chairwoman, former Massac County Chairman Larry Douglas, former State President Phil Rock, great people, and former and Chief Federal Judge Abner Mikva. I'd also like to remember another individual who was instrumental in my life personally, and that was Congressman Lane Evans. He meant a great deal to me, and he's kind of my guiding star for what I try and do in my political life. But we all have people like that. They left a void in our life. I just ask for a moment of silence for them. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Macoupin County Chairman, former president of this organization, a Vietnam-era veteran, and the next state representative of the 95th District, Mike Mathis, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike?
All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Bill.
Would Pastor T. Ray McJunkins please come up to give us our opening prayer? Pastor Junkins.
One time, make some Democratic noise in here if you would. Now, really, you sound like a bunch of Republicans. I said some Democratic noise in here. That's what I'm talking about. Where you are seated, let us bow our heads for a moment of prayer. Oh God, the giver of every good and perfect gift, we're here today to celebrate life. But not only do we celebrate life, oh God, we celebrate the joy and the pleasure of you using each one of us. We pray today, oh God, while others are talking about taking back America, we ask that you will continue to pour into us, these who we call Democrats. Pour into us, God, that we will continue to take America forward. Oh God, we ask now that you will use our hands, use our hearts, that our compassion will continue to pour out. We thank you for what the leadership of this great nation has already done. But then we continue to pray, oh God, both on the state level and on the local level. Certain ones who are running for office, we lift them up to you, oh God, for what they stand for and what we believe in. We cannot do it without you, and we know that you handle the affairs of the kingdom through individuals. So thank you, oh God, for having chosen us as individuals to take care of the matters that pertain to your kingdom. God, we ask now that you will invoke your presence in this place, that all that we do will be pleasing in your sight. Even greater than that, we will have your signature on it, oh God, that we're moving in the right direction. We come now for those who have already eaten. We ask that you will bless the food that our bodies have received and are about to receive. God, we thank you for this day. This is the day that you have made, and we rejoice and we're glad. In the name of our God, we pray and ask these things. Amen.
In Washington, D.C., our first speaker has exemplified exactly what our country needs more of right now. He is a true statesman, someone we all look up to. His leadership in our state and in our nation has guided us through some of the darkest hours of our country. And with his help, he will lead us to our brighter days. Ladies and gentlemen, United States Senator Dick Durbin.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, nice. Very nice. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Let me join the chorus of thanking all those who have worked so hard for the Democratic Party, including the County Chairmen's Association, for putting together this annual event. But as I look across this hall and I've walked through the hall, I want to rejoin that chorus of thanks to our friends in organized labor. We would not be here without you. Thank you for standing up for working men and women across the United States and across the state of Illinois. My friends, let's not forget this moment in history. Let's not forget that we are in the closing weeks of the presidency of a man whom we've called our friend, our neighbor, our leader, Barack Obama. Don't forget that when he took the office of presidency almost 8 years ago, our nation was in the worst recession that we had seen for 70 years. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month when he was sworn into office because the previous Republican administration had pushed economic policies which were destroying the American economy. That's what Barack Obama inherited. He turned it around, and we know what came of it. He saved the American automobile industry and thousands of good-paying jobs across the United States of America. He took on the Wall Street banks when no one else would. Without any help from the Republican Party, he said, we're not going to allow those bankers on Wall Street to lead America on Wall Street or Main Street into the type of ruination that we had seen before he was elected. He did it. And for 20 million Americans, Barack Obama meant that for the first time in their lives, they would have the peace and security of health insurance for their families. He ended discrimination based on pre-existing conditions, and is there a person or a family in this room that doesn't know what that story is all about? He said that women would no longer be discriminated against when it came to buying health insurance. He said that if you were a parent raising a child, you could keep them on your family health insurance policy till they reach the age of 26 while they're looking for that job after college or working part-time. He said to senior citizens across America, we're going to cut the cost of your prescription drugs and keep your money in your savings account, not going over the counter at the drugstore. That's what this president did, and he did it without one single Republican vote supporting him. He did it with his own determination and his own leadership. It's been almost 10 years ago since I sat down with my colleague in the Senate. It was up in Chicago at the Union League Club. Pulled him aside on a Friday night and said, Barack, you got to run for President of the United States. I wasn't the first one to say it to him, but we sat and talked for about 15 or 20 minutes about what it would mean. And he said to me, I better talk this over with Michelle. And I said, you better. Loretta and I went up to a dinner, Urban League dinner in Chicago. A couple weeks later, and Michelle was sitting there, and I went up to her table, and she saw me, and she said, come here. What are you doing to my husband? I said, honest to goodness, Michelle, he has something special. I saw it at that Democratic convention in Boston. I've seen it up in Galena. I've seen it downstate, southern Illinois. I've seen it everywhere. This man has a special quality about him. And he's going to attract people that have never been involved in politics to get involved for the first time. I sure hope he'll run. Well, we better think it over, and we better talk it over. We'll get back to you. So I didn't want to put any pressure on him. I waited 5 days before I publicly endorsed Barack Obama for president. I was the first U.S. senator to endorse him for president. For 14 months, I was the only U.S. senator who endorsed him for president. I believe in this man. I believe in Michelle. I believe in Joe and Jill Biden, some extraordinary people who've made this candidacy, this presidency, so successful. And I will tell you this, he has so much patience and strength, I cannot believe it. There are times when I would have just blown up over what the Republicans were doing to him. But he is steady as you go. He's a solid leader. And I wanted this particular get-together, this brunch, to pay homage and to thank Barack Obama for his great leadership for the United States of America. He deserves it. He deserves it. He's our senator, our president. We all know who's going to carry on with his values and tradition, and we're going to talk about her when Kathleen Merrigan and others get up in a few moments. But I'm here to do a couple things, and I want to move on them quickly. We'll return to the presidential race in a moment. And we're going to actually do something the Republicans couldn't do yesterday, couldn't bring themselves to do. We're going to actually say the name of our presidential nominee out loud because we are proud of Hillary Clinton. Proud to stand with Hillary Clinton. Here they were, the party of Abraham Lincoln, the party of Theodore Roosevelt, the party of Dwight David Eisenhower, unwilling to say publicly the name of their own presidential nominee, I'll say it, Donald Trump. Why? Why would they not support him proudly and openly? Because they refuse to admit he is unfit to be president of the United States of America. Many Republicans are leaving him as they should. Others are hanging around. You can't figure out what they're saying. Oh, I will support him, but I will not endorse him. What? What does this mean? Paul Ryan, what are you saying? I can't understand these things. But we know that if you took the words I, me, and my out of his vocabulary, Donald Trump would have nothing to say. What he is peddling across America is a message of anger, fear, and hatred. Their convention in Cleveland, to borrow or turn a phrase from Ronald Reagan, was midnight in America. Our convention in Philadelphia was morning in America. We are standing together, stronger because we are. I want to say a word about this state. I love this state. A lady came up to me at a naturalization ceremony a few years ago here in Springfield, and she said, "I've been waiting to meet you for such a long time. You know, I went to nursing school at St. John's here in Springfield, and your sister was my roommate back in the 1960s. And she said, my kid brother, Richard Durbin, is going to be a politician someday. I'm just sure of it. Remember that name." And I watched, and sure enough, you started running for office. You didn't do too well at the beginning, and then you got elected. You got elected to Congress and the United States Senate, and I thought your sister was right. And now I got a chance to finally meet you. And I said, "Well, thank you so much, but I don't have a sister." And she said to me, "Well, you are from Decatur, aren't you?" I said, "No, I'm from East St. Louis." Nevertheless, those things happen in politics. Nevertheless, let me tell you this. I am proud to be from downstate Illinois. I am proud to have grown up with my wife in St. Clair County. I am proud to have lived here in Springfield for almost 50 years. I'm proud to have been a congressman from this area and to be senator for this entire state. And I am also proud to represent the greatest city in the United States of America, Chicago, Illinois. Those politicians in the other party who would divide our state and set Southern Illinois against Chicago and set Central Illinois against Northern Illinois, they aren't real leaders. They are dividers, and we don't need them. Whether they happen to be a governor or a congressman or a senator, whatever they happen to be, we are stronger as a state when we stand together. And we stand together when it comes to one important issue. We stand together when it comes to electing the next United States Senator to serve with me in Washington, D.C., Tammy Duckworth. Now, it was 12 years ago. Some of you have heard this story, but it was 12 years ago, and there was a State of the Union address, and they gave me 2 tickets. And I said to my staff, "Call Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, see if there's an Illinois veteran out there who can come as my guest." They called and said, "We got a veteran, and she's going through some medical treatment now, but she can make it here to be with you. And her husband's coming with her." And I met her for the first time, rolling into my office in a wheelchair in full dress uniform, Tammy Duckworth. She was 12 weeks after her incident in Iraq when she was shot down over Iraq in a helicopter, serving with the Illinois National Guard. We all know that she went through some devastating injuries. But despite that, 12 weeks later, there she was with the biggest smile I've ever seen. And she was being pushed into my office by her husband, Brian, another member of the Illinois National Guard. I met this woman and I thought, this is the most amazing person I've ever met in my life. The courage that she has shown, in volunteering to serve our nation, serving in combat as a helicopter pilot, weathering injuries which would have cost the lives of so many others without that determination that she brought to it. And then to come back and then to serve 10 more years in the Illinois National Guard, 10 more years after that, tells you what you need to know. And I will tell you, when her opponent in these super PACs attacked Tammy Duckworth in these ads, questioning her commitment to national defense, her commitment to our national security, my word to them is, have you no shame? Do you not realize this woman has proven over and over again in her life her commitment to America and its national security? Now we need her. We need her in the United States Senate. If Mitch McConnell continues as Republican leader in the Senate, we know that he will continue to say no to appointing and filling the vacancies on the Supreme Court. He will continue to refuse to fund critical issues like the opioid epidemic that affects every corner of our state, and the Zika virus, which we're fighting in Puerto Rico and Florida and across the United States. That's McConnell. cutting off the spending for critical things that we need as a nation. I need someone by my side who will vote to make sure that we have a Democratic majority in the United States Senate, who will be another strong voice for Illinois, who will make sure that she will be there on the floor of the United States Senate, fighting for our military, fighting for our veterans every day. Come on up here, my friend, our next United States Senator. Stand up and give a big round of applause for the next senator from the state of Illinois, Tammy Duckworth.
Good morning. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Oh, my gosh. Good morning. I see Sherry Bustos back there. Now, if you are in the Quad Cities, you get to vote for 4 women at the top of the ticket. 4. 4. Susana Mendoza as well. Historic. So good to see everyone here today. Another sold-out breakfast. I am super excited for November 8th. It's a historic year, and each of us needs to push even harder. You may have heard some good poll numbers for Hillary, but that does not mean that the fight is over. I was telling folks that I feel like as hard as I'm running right now, and I'm going to get faster and run harder and cover more and more and more of the state, I'm going to be like that Bahama sprinter who dove across the finish line to win gold in Rio. And we're all going to be there together. But what we're doing is making sure that we do our part for a future for our country that is as true to American ideals and values as the hate-filled racist vision of Donald Trump is not. The America that is our vision is an America that values diversity, that rewards hard work, not cheating and stiffing working families and people you do business with like Trump did, an America that invests in its people. You know, I couldn't be here today in front of each and every one of you in Donald Trump, Bruce Rauner, or Mark Kirk's America. I couldn't. I would never have had a shot. Because you see, I didn't come from a wealthy family. We couldn't afford a private school. In fact, this nation invested and saved me when I was a hungry kid on food stamps. When I didn't have food to eat, I was able to eat at school on school lunch and school breakfast. And sometimes, and many of you have heard me tell this story, I ate because I had a high school English teacher who reached into his own public school teacher's pocketbook and fed those of us that he knew weren't going to get to eat dinner that night. You know, I didn't inherit millions from my dad, but I did inherit a sense of duty to my nation, respect for hard work, and a never give up attitude. And I'm here in front of you today because of those Pell Grants and student loans and that never say die attitude, because of the kindness of strangers, because of people who believed that we should be investing in each other. You know, I think that's why we can do better. We can do better than the Republican vision. I was at the convention, and boy, what a huge difference from the Republican hate-filled, fear-mongering vision for America. You know, I can't even imagine a party that says that we should create a litmus test for who could become an American, who can come to this nation, that we would separate people out on the basis of religion, that we would turn our back on kids who are drowning in the Mediterranean Sea, that we would say that it's okay to build a wall to separate us from neighbors. My family has served this nation in uniform going back to the Revolution. We didn't do that, and we didn't bleed for this country generation after generation, like so many of your families, all those military families and all those veterans out there. We didn't do that just so the likes of Donald Trump and Mark Kirk can turn their back on the Constitution that founded this great nation, and I would not let them do it. That's not the only thing Mark Kirk and the Republicans are turning their backs on. They're turning their backs on the future. You know, why are we forcing our kids to graduate from college with back-breaking debt? Why are we forcing the future generation of this nation to be worried about how they're going to pay their bills because they had to sign away decades of their life in order to get a good education, when we should be supporting them in getting good jobs and then allowing them to actually be saving towards their first mortgage as opposed to paying off student loan debt. But Mark Kirk opposes allowing Americans to refinance their student loans. In fact, he calls free community college for deserving students a handout. I'm working to make it free all over the state and across this nation. Mark Kirk and the Republicans support the Ryan Republican budget, which pay for a tax cut for the wealthy by hiking taxes on middle-class families by an average of $2,000 and turn Medicare into a voucher program. I introduced a piece of legislation with Elizabeth Warren called the SAVE Act that would actually close a tax loophole that allows businesses to write off bonus payments to executives who make more than $1 million and take that money and give every person on Social Security and Social Security disability $580. That's the difference in our visions. You know, I half expected Mark Kirk to be here because he's trying so hard to run away from his own record as a Republican. I thought maybe he bought a ticket to this breakfast. Which is, you know, you can be sure that he'll do that because he does it every time he's up for an election. And then the rest of the time, he's back to being a reliable Republican vote. After all, he voted for the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy that turned record surpluses into deficits. He put 2 wars on the nation's credit card. In fact, he was tapped by the Bush administration to co-write the Iraq invasion resolution. This is the man who knows so much about national security, who's been wrong on every issue of national security he's ever been involved in, and who, by the way, claims all of this based on his military record, which he lied about at least 10 different times. In fact, he said he was shot at in Kandahar, he was shot at in Bosnia, and he was shot at in Iraq. I've been shot at. It's not the kind of thing you misremember. It's funny because Mark Kirk is all over the place. In fact, you know, he started off by saying that he would support Donald Trump for president if he was elected as the Republican nominee. He even said that he looked forward and was best positioned to be the steady conservative hand advising a Trump administration. And then when I said, you know, this is the same man who called Mexicans rapists and women pigs and dogs, and if you don't denounce him, then you are complicit in his racism, turned around and said, okay, now I won't support Donald Trump. I'm going to write in David Petraeus. So then I pointed out that David Petraeus lost his security clearance when he pled guilty to mishandling of classified documents. So then he said he was going to back Colin Powell, but also said that he couldn't actually vote for Hillary Clinton because she supported the Iran nuclear deal. So then I pointed out that Colin Powell was a vocal supporter of the Iran nuclear deal. So now, as of Tuesday, he's back to writing in Petraeus. Look, and that's your United States Senator. Who Mark Kirk decides or doesn't decide, or maybe he'll just stand there confused, scratching his head on Election Day on who he's going to write in, I suggest Captain Crunch, since he's committed to military commanders, except that Captain Crunch is not a real captain. If you look at the bars on his uniform on your cereal box, he's actually a lieutenant. So he's lied about his military record. But then again, so has Kirk. So maybe, you know. But look, when Mark Kirk has been sure about his vote is when he's created the most damage. He's voted for every free trade deal under the sun, and Illinois has lost more than 270,000 manufacturing jobs over the course of Mark Kirk's career. He protects loopholes for companies that ship jobs overseas. This isn't an abstraction. It's people's lives. A few months ago, I was in Granite City for the 4th or 5th time, and I sat down with steelworkers and their families whose lives had just been upturned. Because you see, they were laid off. The first of them were laid off 2 days after Christmas. And they were laid off after they'd done everything that they were supposed to do. They worked hard, in some cases for decades. You know, they produced quality steel and they took pride in the work that they did. But factors outside of their control, specifically those trade policies that Mark Kirk backs, allowed inferior products made in places like China and Korea to be dumped on the worldwide market, put them at a disadvantage. How do you tell someone who's worked hard their entire lives, who's in their 50s, looking towards soon, within a decade, retiring, having a kid that's just trying to get started at University of Illinois, that their work is no longer of value. We can do better. We will do better. We have to do better here in Illinois. And that's why I'm running, because too many of our neighbors are working harder than ever, but they're still falling behind. Skyrocketing costs make college feel out of reach for too many families, and it's the same for a secure and dignified retirement. We've come so far since the Great Recession. President Obama, as the Senator Durbin said, deserves so much credit, but there is still work to do. You know, here in Illinois, in the heartland, in the prairie of this great nation, we know about hard work. We know about ambition, but we also know about the importance of investing in each other and in our community. We should be investing our kids so that more of them can graduate from our world-class universities and tech schools. In the 19th and 20th century, we built the great machines that farmed the land all across America. We manufactured the equipment that worked the construction sites and the steel that built our cities and roads. We grew the corn and soybean and hogs that fed the nation. And I know about the hogs because my husband was the executive officer out in Kewanee, Illinois, and I've been to many a hog queen celebration, let me tell you. I know about the hogs. Unlike Mark Kirk, who time and again has supported companies that ship jobs overseas, who even went to China, paid for by the Chinese, to tell them, don't buy American bonds because they're not a good bet. I want to invest in us. I don't see a state that has bros with no hose on the south side of Chicago. I don't think we should have a religious test for who can come to this nation. I don't think that it's right for companies who take advantage of the public schools that train their workers and the firefighters that protect their factories and the police forces that provide them securities and the roads that we build to create a profit and then to ship that profit overseas. But I do intend on betting on America, just like those here in Illinois. For the 21st century, we here in Illinois, right here, we can lead the clean energy revolution. We can build the windmills. We can grow the crops to produce the biofuels. We can manufacture the technology for aerospace, just to name a few things that we are perfectly capable of doing and leading the nation in. We here in Illinois have the hardworking people, have the world-class universities, have the manufacturing capability, have the farmers, have the crops to do what we need to do to lead this nation. And let me tell you, we can again shape our nation into the future of America that is opposite of the future that Donald Trump and Mark Kirk and the Republicans seem to be resigned to. So this is what this is about. This is what this is about. Are we a nation that invests in each other or one that says you're on your own? I believe, and Democrats believe, that we are stronger when we are looking out for each other, when we reward hard work, when we make sure that everyone pulls and pays their fair share. We are also stronger and safer when we engage in the world and lead the world as opposed to running away from it. Those are the values that we defend for a very simple reason. We know that lifting one another up doesn't cost nearly as much as leaving fellow Americans behind. And that's why the Democratic Party I know and love is the one that is going to lead us as we get through this election. That's why we're going to win all up and down the ballot in November. And with each and every one of you working hard, sharing that vision, I know we're going to be celebrating on November 9th. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting all of our troops. God bless you. God bless our troops and our veterans. And always, God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Don't we have the best candidates in the country? Thank you, Tammy. This past May, Springfield was the site of the largest labor rally and march that I've ever been a part of, and maybe that this state capitol has ever seen. But over 10,000 of my fellow brothers and sisters in organized labor descended on the Capitol to remind this governor that he'll never break the will of the hardworking men and women of the state of Illinois. Michael Kerrigan was out in front of our group and continues to lead the fight for organized labor. Please join me in welcoming President of the AFL-CIO, Michael Kerrigan.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Doug, for those kind words. And it's true, you know, there was over 10,000 people in the streets out on the east side of the Capitol for a labor rally, and labor was there, and Doug House was right there in the front. And Doug, we appreciate all that you do. Leader Durbin, Tammy Duckworth, thank you for all that you do. Well, welcome to Springfield. It's Democrats' Day at the fair. It's the Illinois Democrat County Chairmen's Association breakfast. It's a great day. You know, there's the old movie Jaws, the two fishermen, you know, they're fishing, the great white shark comes out, suddenly the two guys are looking at each other, we need a bigger boat. Well, we almost need a bigger room here. This is a great turnout. Thank you very much. You know, as I woke up this morning and thinking, you know, you got a few minutes to give some quick comments, where do you start? And my mind went back to 24 days ago, 25 days ago. It seems like a lot longer than that. It was a Sunday morning. My partner, Tim Dre, our political director, Bill Luby, myself were in St. Louis getting on an airplane. Loretta Durbin, Dick Durbin, we were headed to Philly, to the Democratic National Convention, like a lot of people in this room. We got out to Philly, hot, you know, busy time, 5 nights, 4 days, all you can stand, but well worth it. Tip of the hat to the Democratic Party of Illinois. Great meetings every morning for 4 days. Labor was proud to be part of that, sponsoring breakfasts every morning to help delegates and guests defray costs, and it is an expensive time out there. Just as soon as those meetings were over, everybody had more commitments than they had time for, especially we in labor, National AFL-CIO, affiliate-specific meetings throughout the day, and then, of course, the convention in the evening. It resulted in long days, short nights. You're probably lucky if you got 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but you wouldn't miss it. You know, history was made. It only took 240 years to nominate a woman to be President of the United States. And just like Barack Obama, Hillary is from Illinois, so we were, of course, super proud. You know, we from Illinois, so we watched with pride. We saw it, we watched it, and I think if you were like me, you even had to stop and turn around and kind of say, hey, you know, I just saw history. I saw significant history being made. It took 240 years. So it was a great convention. We saw it come together, top of the ticket across this nation, Hillary and Tim Kaine. You know, when I got home, it was Friday. I was tired. My wife, Karen, she took one look at me, and I won't tell you exactly what she said, but she said, you look tired, you know. So we went kind of through all the things that were going on. Dick, you're kind of smiling. I think you feel my pain. You know, and she said, you know, late nights, early mornings, lots of commitments, anything else? I said, yes, 2 words, Doug House. And she said, tell me a little bit about that. And I said, well, they divide up the delegates into groups, and each one has a whip, somebody that leads you. And that person is assigned to keep track of you and tell you where to be. And Doug, being very resourceful, put us all into a group email. And we only got about 100 emails a day. John, do you know what I'm talking about? Where to be, what time to be there, are you there, take the bus, take the public transit, check-in time, how you coming, give me a progress report, wore us out. I had to leave the hotel and go to an AT&T store to upgrade my data package on my phone. When I got there, the young lady said, "Are you from Illinois?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You need the Doug House upgrade." And I said, "Yes." She said, "John Cullerton's been here, Senator Durbin's been here, Steve Powell's been here. We know just what you need." So they took care of us. But my poor attempt at a joke is to say, thank you, Doug. When you take something on, you take it on with everything you've got. Doug was in the Illinois AFL-CIO office yesterday, and I'm very proud to say the IDCCA is part of labor, and labor is part of this great organization, and this organization just keeps getting better and better. So, Doug, thank you, and thank you, and thank you. So now we're back, and we've got 82 days to go before the November 8th elections. We got the top of the ticket. We've got Tammy. We've got Susana Mendoza, who is tireless. I was with Susana. Where's Susana? I was with Susana Tuesday night in Collinsville, and she just does not quit. You just open the door, and in she goes, and she just goes at it. So I have great confidence with the top of the ticket, and it's overdue. 3 women are going to take us and help everybody win here. So great. You know, my partner isn't here today. He's up north. You know, we can't hardly be in the same room because we've got too many things going on. But, you know, you look across the playing field. This is team sport. And what's going on in the Trump campaign? Well, they're not doing so good. You know, they watched the DNC convention. It's been 25 days. You know, this week the news breaks, you know, big shakeup in the campaign. We're bringing in new people at the top of the campaign. You know, he's having trouble in the polls. You know, there's a hot rumor out there, and it's only a rumor, but right now it's Trump-Pence, but by the end of the week it may be Trump-Putin. We're going to see. Bad joke. But, you know, we're here in Illinois, and we've got hard work to do. We all know the other side's got money on money on money. But we are ready. The County Chairs Association is ready. Labor has been working hard. Our infrastructure is in place. Our people, particularly Bill Luby, who's back at table 34, I explained to him, though 34 table, but you're number 1 in Doug's heart. But we are ready. We have phone banks in place up and down this state in 12 strategic locations. They're set up particularly to service targeted campaigns. They're tied in with our national database using the greatest and latest in electronic technology. You know, we have volunteers that are starting to go to those phone banks. We're starting to organize our walks. Obviously, we're getting ready for a great national holiday, Labor Day. If you are interested in being part of any of those phone banks, you talk to any labor leader in the area, and I'm sure they will open the door and let you be part of helping with the phone bank or being involved, because some of our banking operations will even be reaching out to the general public. You know, yesterday was Republican Day at the fair. You know, Rauner was there. He was talking about the ground game. They're going to have a huge ground game. Well, I think Democrats know a little bit about the ground game. It's in this room. You know, you live in Illinois. You've raised your family in Illinois. This is your state. It's your community. You know how to get out and work for your candidates. What's he going to do? He's going to buy it. He's going to import it in. He's going to write checks for millions of dollars, bring people in, paid people. They'll come into this state and they'll work the elections, and then they'll be gone on the night of November 8th or the morning of November 9th. But labor is ready. We're going to work hard. You're going to work hard. We're going to work hard together. I have one more thing to say before I leave, and I want to look to President Cullerton. I want to look to Speaker Madigan, and on behalf of the labor movement in Illinois, the third largest labor movement in this country, I want to say thank you to both of you men and to your respective caucuses. For standing up against something called reform that isn't reform. It's called the turnaround agenda, and the definition of the turnaround agenda is destroying the middle class, destroying wages and benefits and rights for hardworking women and men of this great state. And over the last 19 months, it's been nothing but trench warfare in the capital of Illinois, and in the House and in the Senate. The Democrats, with the leadership of John Cullerton and Speaker Madigan, have said no, not on our watch. So thank to both of you men and your respective caucuses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. About those group texts, I can only tell you that Dan Kovacs taught me how to use that before I left, so that might explain some of the frequency by which they came out. Our next speaker knows a little bit of something about standing up for the state of Illinois. He's worked hard since being in the Senate and now becoming our state treasurer. Mike Frerichs understands that the amount of hard work that's needed in order to win at a county level. But Mike's race may have been close, but it's important to know he worked hard. He earned that. And in that effort, he earned the respect of every person in this room. That was a close race. We could have lost that race if we had not had an outstanding candidate like Mike Frerichs. He worked hard for that, and we're thankful for it. Mike, you come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please sit down. Please sit down. You know, I want to say thank you to this organization. We did work hard. We sacrificed, but we didn't do it alone. We were stronger together. And this organization was on board early and strong, and that made a big difference in my being able to address you today as your state treasurer. It is a great job. And as I look through your booklet, I see some of your supporters. They're the same supporters that I have. Organized labor, I would not be here today without you. So thank you all very much. So I have a lot of people to thank. I want to thank someone. A friend of mine knows that I like history, that I like politics. And several years ago, they gave me this plate. It's a commemorative plate from President Lyndon Baines Johnson. And if you look around the edges of this plate, you see all of the United States presidents up to LBJ. Now, I got this plate. I liked it, but we're not going to eat off of it. Set it on a shelf and didn't do very much with it. Until several months ago, I took it out because I have a 7-year-old daughter. And I wanted to teach her about the presidents. I want to see how many presidents she knew. And if she could find Abraham Lincoln on here, which presidents she knew. And at one point, as I'm quizzing her, she says, "Daddy, there are no girls on this plate." She's a smart girl. You know, that for me was a reminder of why we need to get out and work these last 90-some days to elect Hillary Clinton. You know, I don't want my daughter to be president. I want her to have a happy life. But if she should choose that she wants to get involved in politics, she should know that there are no limits to where she can rise. And because I love my daughter so much, and so many other young girls out there ought to know that they can achieve whatever they want, I am gladly casting my vote this fall for Hillary Clinton for president. And for those out there who will say, you can't vote for her just because she's a woman, I will tell you, you're right. I'm not voting for her just because she's a woman. I'm voting for her because she is the most qualified woman and the most qualified candidate for president that we have seen. And because she sees the world the way I do. She knows that we are all stronger together. If you were to have listened to some of those speeches in Cleveland, you'd think that Donald Trump was the Messiah. He is the only person out there that can save us for all the problems out there. Hillary Clinton knows you don't just have a savior, that we are in this together, and we are stronger when we work together. You know, Donald Trump likes to talk about the buildings he has built as if he crafted them with his own bare hands. You know, I've talked at previous breakfasts here before about my family. I've talked about my father, my grandfather, who was a dairy farmer in the midst of the Depression, about my father, who was a Teamster truck driver, my mom, who was an Ask Me secretary. I talk about my daughter a lot because, quite frankly, it's my favorite topic to talk about. But my family is much larger than that. My family grew up on farms. They didn't own land, and many of them went into the trades. And so we talk about building buildings. I know how that happens. You know, you start with a strong foundation. You pour a strong foundation. I know that from my Uncle Don, who's a laborer. Then you start building up some walls. My brother James, who's a member of the Carpenters Union, I see the kind of work he does. If you're building a larger building, I have an uncle and a cousin who are iron workers. You build with strong steel. You need to make sure that my cousin Justin, who's a member of the Plumbers Union, is working to make sure that you have good plumbing in this house. And when you build all of this house, you want to protect it. My cousins, Kathy and Greg, are members of the Fraternal Order of Police. My cousin Matt is a member of the firefighters. You protect these things. You build a strong family, you build a strong community. And part of building a strong community is you have educators. My sister-in-law Jenny and my cousins Rachel and Kelly are all members of teachers' unions. It takes all of these people with different skills and different backgrounds to build a strong house, to build strong families, to build a strong community, and to build a strong state. And Hillary Clinton knows that. Now, my question is, what does Donald Trump believe? I mean, really, what does Donald Trump believe? I know he believes that Vladimir Putin is a role model. And he believes rather than building houses, we should be building walls. He believes about talking about himself, but other than that, I don't really know what he believes. No, it's tough to figure out. But I do know someone who has a similar background to him in our governor. And you know, I know that we build things with hammers and wrenches. Our governor likes to build the middle class with a wrecking ball. You know, he is assaulting working class families out there. And so I want to say to you today is there will be big choices in this election. There will be big differences between the two parties. I know in my office, and we as Democrats believe in investing in education. Governor Rauner has looked to cut funding for higher education, to cut funding for scholarships for young, needy families, and we as Democrats to that say no. We believe in our office that we ought to take care of people in the prime of their lives. We ought to give retirement security, and we see Governor Rauner try to take away pension security, and to that we say no. In our office, we're going to help families save for their children with disabilities. We're going to take care of the most vulnerable people in our state. And one just has to look at what's happened in the last year under Governor Rauner. As service providers who are taking care of our most vulnerable have been closing their doors. And to that policy, we as Democrats say no. We believe in building an economy with good paying jobs, and he believes on tearing down wages, engaging in a race to the bottom, and we as Democrats say no. And so to the Trump and Rauner agenda, we as Democrats say no. But we as Democrats also say something else. To Hillary Clinton this November 8th, we are going to say yes. To Tammy Duckworth, we are going to say yes. To candidates, Democrats up and down for the ballot, senators, representatives, we are going to say yes. Now, I hope you will join me in saying yes to one more candidate. And I will say, as state treasurer, that this is a really important office. You know, it's an office people will look over. When people talk about this candidate, they'll tell you how much energy she has. They'll tell you how she's been traveling up and down the state of Illinois. And those are all true. And those are good qualities, make a good candidate, but that's not why you need to elect Susana Mendoza. Susana Mendoza also realizes we're stronger together. And she realizes this is an office where you can affect people, you can improve lives. And as the state treasurer, I can tell you that it is important we elect Susana Mendoza as our next state comptroller. Please join me in welcoming Susana Mendoza, Illinois' next state comptroller.
So, of course, they picked the tallest guy in the state to introduce the shortest person in the room. Well, I my 3-year-old's here, so maybe he's got me beat. But good morning, everybody. How we doing? I'm going to say hi to all the people way over there. Woo! All the people way over there. We have the most incredible chairman's breakfast ever. This is completely awesome, and if this doesn't fire me up, nothing will. So thank you very much. Thank you to Chairman Doug House, who has just done an amazing job as the president of the Illinois Democratic Chairman Association, the County Chairmen's Association. Thank you to all of the county chairmen. Thank you to all of the precinct workers, all of the volunteers, every single person that is out there working hard on behalf of all Democrats. It has been my true honor and privilege to get to know so many of you over the last year. You know, last year I was here, it was basically like my debut. Many of you got to know me for the very first time. I got to know you for the very first time. But how much changes over a year? We've put almost a little over, actually, 30,000 miles on my car. Those are central Illinois, downstate Illinois miles, and while I do live north of I-80, I can tell you that my heart has gotten 2 to 3 times as big because of central and southern Illinois. I love you. Thank you. And so I get to come back today, and how exciting, because now I don't feel like I'm meeting people for the first time. There might be a few that I haven't met yet, but I feel like I'm amongst family, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Well, thanks. And speaking of family, this year I have my mom with me, who's just turned 81 on Thursday. So Mom, stand up. She's short, so you still might not see her, but there you go. That's my mom. Happy birthday, Mom. Feliz cumpleaños. La quiero muchísimo. I just said I love her lots, because it's true. She and my father, who unfortunately passed away over 20 years ago, my mom, she's been my rock, and my father and her have been and always will be my greatest mentors. My husband, David, is there as well, and our 3-year-old son, who I think is probably out of the room now. Oh, there he is. He was climbing escalators like every good 3-year-old should do. But David has been the most amazing thing to happen to me in my life. He and that 3-year-old who I adore, and I could honestly not be doing this with the passion and determination and just sincere commitment that I have if I didn't have his determination and his commitment and his unconditional love and support. So thank you, honey. Thank you so much. And so there you have it. You know, we are 81 days away. 81 days away from the November 8th election, and we have very little time to spare in taking back our state from Governor Rauner and Comptroller Munger. You know who she is. She's the self-proclaimed wingman of this governor and clearly his appointee beholden to him. So here's a funny little tidbit. This is kind of interesting. You might find it. Yesterday at Republican Day, my opponent, Comptroller Munger, she actually accused me of being a product of powerful men. Yeah. You know, she disparaged my record. She even questioned my ability to do math. And at the end of the day, she said that my comments today would be about nothing related to solving problems in the state of Illinois. Well, Leslie, here I am. Now you listen up. So look, ever since I was a little girl, I fell in love with playing soccer. And at the time, I played on all boys soccer teams. It was at that time that I found out how to play in a world dominated by men. It was boys at the time, but you know, they seemed big to me. But guess what? I thrived in that world. And then after graduating college as a decorated student athlete, I got really active in politics and I fell in love with it. But again, a very male-dominated world, but a world in which I learned to play with, but not for, my male counterparts. And unlike Comptroller Munger, I have a history of standing up to leaders in my own party. I ran against the machine, not once, but twice. The first time I lost, but the second time I won. I also led the charge as a key sponsor and member of the impeachment committee of Governor Rod Blagojevich. And in my first year as city clerk, I publicly took on Mayor Emanuel, and I won that battle. The sexist notion that any one of us was put into a position of power, like, say, being appointed to a statewide spot, I don't know, only through the power of men, you know, that has no place in 2016, and it's something that's straight out of the Donald Trump playbook on women. You know, I'd never say that about women because it's never been my experience. And little girls everywhere across the state and across the country, they should know that they can play great in a man's world and brilliantly succeed on their very own. So this is fun. This is why Hillary Clinton, she will be our next United States president. She will. She will because she'll earn it. Tammy Duckworth, where's Tammy? Oh, she already, sorry about that. Well, she's in our hearts, always present. Tammy, you know her, she's a decorated war hero. She flew a helicopter leading brave men and women into a war zone and sacrificed so much for our country. She is going to be our next U.S. Senator. She is, because she's going to earn it. And like every election that I've ever run in and won, I'm going to be your next comptroller because I too will earn it. Now, the state's checkbook, you know, it shouldn't be run at the direction of Governor Rauner, but that's exactly what's happening today. Just as Comptroller Dan Hines did when he was in office, I will bring an important checks and balance to the office of the governor. Because, folks, when I'm your comptroller, I'll be an independent, truth-telling fiscal watchdog, not the lapdog that currently exists today. And you know what? I'm running for the most important office that most people have never heard of. Comptroller of the state of Illinois. But here's why it matters. It matters because the comptroller controls the state's checkbook. The numbers, ledgers, the spreadsheets, they're more than just numbers. They tell a story. They tell a story about the people of Illinois and how we choose to prioritize them. These are real people with real problems, and they deserve better. And as your comptroller, I will tell their story, and I will prioritize people over politics. And Comptroller Munger, she says she's qualified to be comptroller because she's managed big brands at Helene Curtis. Brands like Suave shampoo and Degree deodorant. Well, guess what, folks? There is no amount of shampoo or deodorant that can help clean up the mess that she and Governor Rauner have created in the state of Illinois. So here's my experience. I'm the twice elected Chicago City Clerk, and I've served for more than 10 years as a member of the Illinois General Assembly. Always elected, never appointed. Like every single person in this room, I've actually had to work hard to achieve anything in my life. And as a legislator, I developed a keen working knowledge of how state government should work. And as the first woman ever elected to the office of Chicago City Clerk, I've gained invaluable executive management experience, successfully running the second largest office in the city of Chicago that will enable me to hit the ground running as your comptroller, improving efficiency, transparency, and accountability in the office of the comptroller. I'm proud of my record as Chicago City Clerk, and since being elected in 2011, I've managed and modernized the second largest office in the city. I've done so with 10% less payroll. I've cut overtime in my office by 70%. I came in under budget every year that I've been clerk. I dramatically improved customer service. I've rooted out waste and fraud. And I've generated over $30 million in new revenue for the city of Chicago without asking taxpayers to pay more. So you see, Comptroller Munger, I'm actually pretty good at math. On the other hand, under the watch of Governor Rauner and Comptroller Leslie Munger, our most vulnerable have truly indeed suffered. Social service agencies have closed their doors. Daycare and early childhood services, cut. Thousands of college students have quit school because they lost their MAP grant funding. And frail seniors who rely on Meals on Wheels, they're going hungry. Or worse yet, many of them have been sent off to nursing homes where they've lost their security and their dignity. All of this is happening in our state while Leslie Munger remains silent. While Governor Rauner plays political games and vulnerable people get hurt, Leslie Munger, silent. And while Donald Trump continues to spew racist, sexist, dangerous, hateful rhetoric, Leslie Munger, silent. She has yet to denounce Donald Trump. But why would she? She's proud to have her campaign chairperson aligned with the Trump campaign. And she's proud to have her campaign chairperson on the front lines of the right to work for less legislation. In their zeal to lower wages for all people across the state, except, of course, we know this, for the 1%. You know, Comptroller Munger and Governor Rauner have shown how completely out of touch they are with hardworking men and women. My father, he was an awesome union pipe fitter. My father-in-law raised 9 kids on the salary of a union electrician out of Joliet. I know firsthand the contributions that hardworking men and women in organized labor have given to this state. And I'll stand up to anyone who tries to take away the ability of our brothers and sisters in labor to be able to feed their families and do well by their people. I won't be silent, and I'm going to use my bully pulpit to push back on the bully. So Comptroller Munger, you know, she's had 2 years now, 2 years, to stand up to Governor Rauner, to his disastrous turnaround agenda. But instead, what she's done is she's championed it. at the expense of holding the most vulnerable hostage. She says she's proud of her record as comptroller, the very same person who not only waited to be sued in the courts, but even worse, waited to be threatened with contempt of court before releasing funds for the most vulnerable in our state, specifically developmentally disabled seniors and children. I think you'd agree, as would those seniors and sick kids, that that is no record to be proud of. 2 years. 2 years without a budget. It's never, ever happened in the history of our state. The only new variable, folks, to this equation is the Munger-Rauner team. So it boils down to this. It's really simple. If you like and are happy with the dysfunction that is Springfield today, then vote for her. But if you want an independent, tested, and proven leader who will fight for you, then I'm your girl. We have 81 days left. My favorite number today. Tomorrow it'll be 80. And I need your help to win this thing. I need you. I need your help. I need your votes. I need you to make calls for me. I need you to get people to the polls for me. We need to do this, but I need you to do it not just for me, but for every single Democrat on the Democratic ticket this year. Every single Democrat, from the top to the very bottom. Hillary Clinton, for Tammy Duckworth, for me, for Sherry Bustos, for Brendan Phelps, for Gary Forby, for Mike Smitty. You pick your Democrat, but pick a good Democrat and vote Democrat this election day. The future of our state seriously and honestly depends on it. And we have to elect Democrats from the top to the bottom, and we cannot do it without you. So please, Democrats, thank you for your support. God bless you. Let's get this thing and take it over the goal line, and let's score a great big goal, since soccer is still my favorite sport. God bless you. Thank you.
Eight years ago, we had a contested presidential primary, Hillary Clinton versus Barack Obama. And many people said at the end of that contest, we'll never win the presidency. We came back together as a party. In this room are people who supported one of my colleagues in the Senate, Bernie Sanders. And I want to give a tip of the hat to Bernie Sanders for his candidacy, his leadership, his message, and his impact on our nation's platform. A platform that speaks now to giving working families a fighting chance and doing something about income equality. What we need to have a determination today is to bring this party back together and to lead this party forward to victory in November. Joining us today, Kathleen Merrigan, sent to us by the Clinton campaign, Hillary Clinton's campaign, to say a few words about this national campaign. Let's give her a big Illinois welcome. Kathleen Merrigan, part of the Obama cabinet, now joining us today in Springfield. Take it away, Kathleen.
Thank you, Senator. Whoa. So, I was sent here to inspire you, but wow. What an incredible brunch. What incredible energy in the room. Thank you for letting me be here. Let me begin with a whole bunch of thank yous. First of all, I want to thank Senator Durbin for your ferocious leadership. You're one of a kind, and we can't thank you enough for what you do in Washington. I want to thank the many elected officials here who have made public service the centerpiece of their lives, their family lives, and those of you who aspire to do the same. Most importantly, I want to thank the county chairs across the room. I know you're gearing up to make November 8th historic. I mean, I see it in my head, you know, I envision that day. I envision that day as a day that Democrats reclaim the Senate by electing Tammy Duckworth, and the day we elect Hillary Rodham Clinton as the first woman president of the United States. So, the Clinton campaign asked me if I'd come by. I was actually at the Delaware shore with my family on a beach vacation. And I said to the kids, you know, Mom was asked to do this speech, and I don't know, we don't go on vacation but 1 week a year. Should I leave? And my 17-year-old daughter, you know what she said? She said, Mom, it's time to play the women's card. So, you know, we have a little over 80 days. You've heard that a number of times throughout the morning. How do we get where we need to go? I've worked campaigns my entire life. You know, I was at my parents' knees as a little girl, and my dad did the signs in town. It's never easy, is it? It's always a lot of hard work. You got to control your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers. And this year, with Donald Trump leading the Republican ticket, well, we face an unconventional and unpredictable candidate. And his supporters, they seem immune to his outrageous and dangerous comments. I was surrounded by Trump supporters when I flew in last night on the plane. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, and it just seemed senseless to me. Despite Donald Trump's daily gaffes, people love him. They just sort of laugh it off. Oh, that's just the Donald. When he gets in office, it'll all be different. We don't have to worry. Ladies and gentlemen, we face the most important election of our lifetime. I mean that. I feel that so deeply. We can't afford to get comfortable. We can't afford to be complacent. It's all about hard work, and I'm here today to ask for your help. Now, we know the job of being president is the toughest in the world. Thank you for sending us our great President Obama. I think Senator Durbin's remarks are right on target. You should be so proud that he hails from your state. He's done such incredible work. I was so proud to serve as his Deputy Secretary of Agriculture. When I served as Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I would occasionally meet with President Obama. I'll never forget this one meeting in which he said that the time problems actually come to his desk, it was because they couldn't be solved at any lower level of government, despite the great talent pool of people he had working for them. He said that as president, he was presented with the most intractable, complex, contentious, and consequential decisions. Those were the decisions that came to him, and none of them were easy. There were no easy, clear answers. Now, he wasn't complaining. He was a little bit about the graying hair on his head, I gotta give you that. But simply trying to give us an insight into what his life was like as he led the White House and our government. He's done a miraculous job, and now he's ready to pass that baton. Secretary Hillary Clinton, she stands ready to be Commander-in-Chief from day one. She's ready to handle those tough, intractable, and complex issues. There has never been anyone more ready for the job, and Presidents Clinton and President Obama said so at our convention. Loose lips, Donald Trump? I'd laugh if I wasn't so frightened. He has neither the temperament nor the training to be President of the United States. This is a guy who America loves because of a television show in which he says, "You're fired." I don't know about you, but in the course of my career, I've had to fire people from time to time. It's never been easy. It's never been something I've taken lightly. I've never been flippant about it. Too many people in this country, they're unemployed or they're underemployed. Even the guys with good jobs, they're starting to look worried, right? The tech sector, you know, that used to be the golden life, right? It's no longer a sure thing. It's no longer untouchable. Just yesterday, Cisco Systems announced another 5,500 jobs, another layoff of 5,500. So Secretary Clinton, she understands what people are going through. She's put out workable, detailed plans to help people get back to work, to keep the economy going in a global world of marketplace that's very complex. She's not simply saying, "You're fired," smugly saying you're fired. She's working hard on strategies to say to people, "You're hired." And being good in business, a word here. You've heard some already this morning. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is good in business, no. His track record of bankruptcies and ripping off the little guy. But say, let's pretend he was good in business. Being a business executive alone doesn't prepare you for being President of the United States. I remember when a group of CEOs were brought to the White House to school up the deputy secretaries on how to manage the bureaucracies. And it was a very well-intentioned meeting, I understand that. But when the CEOs spent an hour or two drumming in how to run a business, and at a certain point I stood up and I pushed back and I said, look, I manage a budget of $150 billion a year. But by law, I have to ask permission of both the Senate and House Appropriations Committees, both sides of the aisle, to move $250,000 from one account to another. Now you might think to yourself, that's absolutely crazy. And actually I wouldn't disagree, but it's the reality. Government has a lot of rules. The CEOs were stunned. They were speechless, really. Only so much of their expertise is really relevant to the world of government. That's the reality. So this is what I know. When it comes to governing, Hillary Clinton understands the rules. She knows the players. She will not waste a moment of time so precious to the people who really need her leadership. People like our service members, our veterans, who deserve much more from the country they serve. Better health care, better job opportunities, better child care. And we know a disproportionate number of our military hail from rural America. So let me say a few words about rural America, where I grew up and where my heart really is. I was at the convention for a bit. I had the good fortune to hear some of those incredible speeches. Incredible, right? Senator Heidi Heitkamp talked to a group of us who are engaged in rural America, and she said, it's as if people in rural America are only willing to whisper that they're a Democrat. And I said, God, that's true. I spent all my time in rural America. It's like pulling teeth to get someone to admit they're a Democrat. It was just a few months ago when an agriculture newsletter that we read about town in Washington said that 75% of farmers and ranchers are Republican. I actually was surprised. I thought it was more than that. But here's the thing. And this was stressed at the convention by Senator Tester, who's doing a great job as the head of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, and by USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack and others. The reality is that Secretary Clinton will not win if she loses rural America by 90%. So I'm here this morning not to ask the impossible to win rural America outright, but I'm here to ask that we together work our butts off, that's a technical term, to make sure that we don't lose our rural counties by significant margins. We need to pick off rural voters and show them that Secretary Clinton is their true champion. Here's my message to rural America. Under President Obama and Secretary Tom Vilsack, we've made important achievements of which to be proud. But so much work remains to be done. What could we do with another 4 years? What could we do with another 8 years? We could carry on, continue to open up government stores, and particularly the Department of Agriculture stores, even wider, to invite new constituencies in. We have so much more to do. It's not time to stop now. The job is not done. We know that we need to transition America's working lands. I talked to a number of people in the crowd here today who come from farming backgrounds, their families still in farming. We have an aging farm population. We need to get young people excited about farming and ranching and back on working lands. But to succeed, they're going to need a lot more help than we currently are able to provide them. So see, the job's not done. We know that we need to help farmers through the next Farm Bill. A bill that's not just about farmers, by the way. It's called the Farm Bill, but it helps rural communities put in water systems. It has the SNAP program, the former food stamp, formerly known as food stamp programs, a lot of key important programs that many of your districts and counties rely upon deeply. This is a bill that has had no support from Vice President nominee Pence, who voted 16 different times against the 2008 Farm Bill, the last Farm Bill that was before the Congress. 16 times. And Lord knows if the Donald even knows that there's a thing such as a Farm Bill. Yet when it comes to Farm Bill policy, we know the job is not done. We know that we need to help feed the world, not just by doing well on America's farms and ranches, but by also empowering farmers in other countries. And the world's farmers, they're actually mostly women. Women who lack education, resources, land tenure rights, leadership opportunities. Secretary Clinton has the knowledge and skills to get the various agencies to work together in ways that we have never seen before. It's said that if women were given the same access to education, resources, and leadership opportunities as men, according to the World Bank, according to the United Nations, world food production would increase by 30%, which is the equivalent of feeding 150 million people. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree with me, the job is not done. My list could be endless. That's why I'm here this morning. I'm here asking you to do all you can for this, the most important election of our lifetime. I'm looking out at a sea of people. You're the brain trust. You're the power brokers in the state. You're not Texas Commissioner Sid Miller, one of Donald's key agricultural advisors, who led the effort to put deep fryers back in the schools and roll back the important improvements to school lunch reform that have been led by our wonderful First Lady, Michelle Obama. So you've got the smarts in this room. You can make it happen. Here's the challenge. Hillary has a little bit of the Green Acres problem. Okay, for those of you who are as old as I am, you know that show. Green Acres is the place to be. Do, 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 do. All right, so if you haven't seen the show, it's about the city life versus the country life. And I think when a lot of Americans hear that Hillary Clinton, I know she's from Illinois, but they think of her as New York because of her time in the Senate there and her life there now. They just think New York City. They don't realize that New York as a state is very rural and that agriculture and food and agriculture is one of the biggest parts of that economy. And that Hillary Clinton, she is beloved in the farm country in her state. She is beloved in the rural communities. She's very comfortable in rural America. So she's built a rural agenda on 4 points. Detailed plans, just like we know she can do and carry out. First, she wants to spur investment to power the rural economy. Here's an example. Community banks, simplifying regulations for community banks. Investing more in broadband access. Long list there about the rural economy. Second, raising ag production and profitability for family farms. She wants to double funding for young farmers and ranchers to make sure they succeed. She wants to double the investments in local and regional food systems, something that's booming here in the state of Illinois, providing new job opportunities for young entrepreneurs. She wants to maintain a safety net for farms and ranches. Third, promoting clean energy leadership. Do you realize that in the last census of agriculture in 2012, I suppose you guys don't read that, I do, it's the nerd in me, but 65,000 farmers across America had solar panels on their farm. Why not all farms? Most farms could do that and make their bottom line pencil out better. 4, she wants to expand opportunity in rural communities. She knows what it's like in these rural communities, sometimes that feel forgotten. And she knows that they need access to Head Start, to access to quality health care, to telemedicine if you're really rural. So let me close with this because it's been a long morning of speeches and so many who have come before me have really praised Secretary Clinton and given a vision of what our country needs to achieve. Let me close with this. So it was the moment, the convention, that most crystallized everything for me this year. And it was when Mr. Khan, the father of that fallen Muslim American, and his wife were there on stage, and the father held up the Constitution. I hope you've all seen it. If you haven't, you gotta Google it. You've gotta see this. You've gotta share it with everyone you know. It was incredibly moving. It was about everything that's good in America. It was also about everything that's at risk if we don't win in November. Never has the contrast between the parties been greater. Seize the day. Build the party. I like this man's 3-year plan. Bring us to victory. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're truly fortunate in our state that at a time when we're faced with dealing with an extremist governor, that we have a Democratic legislator that's fought back against countless attempts to hurt the middle class and those that are the weakest among us. Where would we be without this man's leadership? I welcome and introduce my friend, the Speaker and the Chairman of the Democratic Party, Mike Madigan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, Democrats.
Good morning.
Now, let's remember what the Reverend told us during the invocation. Let's not sound like Republicans, so let's do it again. Good morning, Democrats.
Good morning.
Much better. Much better. I'm going to work to please you in this respect. I'm going to work to spend less time than those that have gone before me at this podium, okay? We've gathered here today as Democrats, but it's always good to ask, and to ask each other, what does it mean to be a Democrat? If you look around the room, we're all different. Look at the person next to you on either side. Look at the person behind you. We're all different. So in this crowd, among these people, what is it that would bring us together? I have two suggestions. Number one, I think we can come together in opposition to the extremism of Donald Trump. Number two, I think we can all come together in opposition to the extremism of Bruce Rauner. Concerning Mr. Rauner, since the year 1933, at the beginning of the Franklin Roosevelt administration, and for 83 years thereafter. So for 83 years, the American national government and state governments, including Illinois, have always worked to raise wage levels and the standard of living and to protect the vulnerable in our society. That's been the policy of American governments for 83 years. However, today in Illinois, Governor Rauner is attempting to advance an extreme agenda that would actually take the state of Illinois in the opposite direction. So under the extreme Rauner agenda, the Illinois government would actually be used to lower wages, lower the standard of living, and to send injured workers to the emergency room and to welfare. Under the extreme Rauner agenda, there would be lower benefit levels for injured workers in workers' compensation. There would be a repeal of the ability of workers to bargain collectively for higher wages under public sector collective bargaining. Under the extreme Rauner agenda, there would be a repeal of the prevailing wage for workers in the construction industry. In all of these instances, if the extreme Rauner agenda is successful, there would be a lowering of wages, lowering of the standard of living for the middle class, and injured workers would be sent to the emergency room and to welfare. I'm very pleased to tell you that the Democrats in the legislature have stood against this extreme Rauner agenda. very pleased to tell you that the Democrats in the legislature will continue to stand against this extreme Rauner agenda. Rauner is so extreme that he actually held hostage the Illinois governmental budget making. He did that to get his changes in workers' compensation, collective bargaining, prevailing wage. He failed. He failed. When he said a few months ago that he would accept a stopgap budget, that was really an admission that his attempt to advance his extreme agenda of lowering wages, lowering the standard of living, sending workers to welfare and to the emergency room had failed. And he wanted to turn the page and move on to a new endeavor. However, there were hostages taken during that budget standoff. So if you are an Illinoisan who is dependent upon state funding for services for children with autism, Governor Rauner took you hostage. If you are an Illinoisan who is dependent upon state funding for breast cancer screening, Governor Rauner took you hostage. If you are an Illinoisan who is dependent upon state funding for child abuse prevention, Governor Rauner took you hostage. If you are an Illinoisan dependent upon state funding for services for victims of sexual assault, Governor Rauner took you hostage. So let's go back to where I began. We're all different. We all want to come together. We always ask the question, how can we come together? What is there that will bring us together? So let's address two questions. And let's remember what the Reverend told us during the invocation about not sounding like Republicans. Can we come together against the extremism of Donald Trump? Yes! Number two, can we come together against the extremism of Bruce Rauner? Yes! I promise to be brief. Good luck in November. Onward to victory. Enjoy the day.
All right, when you're facing an out-of-touch billionaire who's out of control and who's pushing a radical agenda, it's always a good idea to not have one general, but to have two. John Cullerton has been a tireless champion of our democratic principles. He's worked hard and he's been a steadfast partner with the Speaker. We greatly appreciate and welcome him to the stage, Senate President John Cullerton.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Doug just introduced me. I have a great title, the President of the Illinois Senate. So the first thing I have to do for you is to introduce you to the Speaker of my House, my wife, Pam Cullerton, who's right here. And Doug, I want to thank you, Doug, for putting this great brunch together, for all the help that you've provided for the Senate Democrats over the years. All the county chairmen who are here, thank you very much for the help you've given us in the past. And I want to tell you, Barb Brown, who was one of you, was one of the first county chairmen I ever met who came really close to becoming my colleague. She was a great lady. She's going to be missed. But when I think of county chairman, I think of her. And once again, I want to thank you for your past help, and I want to thank you for your future help for this coming election, because we're going to need it. Now, I'll tell you a quick story about a woman who's here today, but I won't tell you her name. She works for us on the Senate staff. She's a young mother with 4 children, and her oldest started in the public schools a couple years ago. She's active in the PTO and the civic groups, and a couple of years ago she decided to run for the school board. She dragged her kids off to candidate forums, met with community groups, and offered ideas for how to improve the schools. She put together a nice little campaign heading into Election Day, and when the polls closed, the ballots were counted, and the race was a dead-even tie here in Springfield. Lo and behold, there was a single absentee ballot that had not yet come in. A couple days later, it arrived, it was opened, and the other candidate won. So, all around town, a lot of people began sheepishly confessing that they forgot to vote. I didn't think you needed my vote, some would say. I had no idea it was going to be so close. And of course, some admitted, I never thought my vote would really matter. Well, obviously, everybody in this room knows that it does. And by the way, in that school board race, it proved to be the deciding vote on which schools and programs were going to be shut down by budget cuts, all because of a single vote. So we know there's a lot at stake this November. We saw what happened 2 years ago when some Democrats stayed home. We woke up the day after the elections to find a right-to-work hedge fund billionaire had been elected governor. So now we have an administration that views workers and their families as just another cost that needs to be cut. Think about it, an outsider with no practical experience or apparent interest in governing, someone with no real understanding of the consequences of his rhetoric, let alone his actions. Is this starting to sound familiar? I don't want to wake up on Wednesday, November 9th, to find the same thing has happened to our country. We're not electing people to a reality show. We're electing people to represent us in decisions made at the national, state, and local levels that will reverberate for generations. So, Bruce Rauner's not on the ballot this year, but there are legislative races all across the state. The governor's spending more than $20 million to elect Republicans who will do his bidding, no questions asked. Republicans who will vote against the best interest of their own communities. And they do it because they fear his money. They do it because they need his money. And that's no way to govern. Now, yesterday, he was here supposedly at the ferry. He said he's fighting the Democratic machine. The only machine that's operating in the state of Illinois right now is Bruce Rauner's ATM machine. So he wants to make Illinois a low-wage, low-service state. Yeah, Democrats, for the last several years, have gone it alone in bringing economic recovery and protecting basic workers' rights. And this is what we're up against. If you think back to 2009, when I first got elected Senate President, we worked together, all of us, during the national economic collapse to put people to work rather than close doors. That year, we approved a $31 billion construction program that added jobs when people needed them most. It kept people working and paying taxes so we could keep our heads above water. And that's what government should do. Be there to help when people need it, rather than just say tough luck and hope for the best. Now, as we know, not everybody shares that view. I'm a big supporter of investing in infrastructure and construction spending, but I don't think the way to do it is to build a wall. I think we need to build schools, high-speed rail corridors, and projects that invest in our future. So the question is, who do you want deciding your future? Donald Trump, Bruce Rauner, and an army of corporate clones? I don't think so. So that's why it's so important that we get involved, we stay involved, we get out the vote, and we do not want to have any regrets on November 9th. Thank you very much for inviting me this morning. See you at the fair.
All right, before our next speaker, I'd like to ask everybody to take out their phone. And if you would please take out your phone, I'd like you to look and log on to your Facebook. We have a very active social media, and it'll allow us all to communicate together better. Facebook, Twitter, just go on and search the Illinois Democratic County Chairmen's Association. If you're using your Facebook or you're taking pictures, whether you're out at the state fair or here enjoying friends at the brunch, our hashtag for the day is Illinois Dem Day. And so please use that, Illinois Dem Day, when you're posting photographs from the brunch. All right, each one of us, when we got involved in politics, we had something that motivated us, something that made us get up off the couch and go out and work, something that made us, inspired us to go out and do something to help elect Democrats, to advance a cause. For me, in Rock Island County, it was that we lost our congressional seat, a seat that we had held for over 24 years. This bothered me terribly, and I just couldn't take it. I needed to get involved. I needed to do more. It wasn't enough anymore to just knock on a few doors. So I ran to be the party chairman for Rock Island County. And we worked hard, and we did everything that we could. We brought together a great team, and we were fortunate enough to have a great candidate who went out and worked tirelessly. And we won that seat back right away, and we expelled Bobby Schilling, the Tea Party Republican. And we took back a seat in. This lady represents what we can do all over downstate. When I worked for Congressman Lane Evans, we had 6 of 8 congressional seats held by Democrats. Today, this lady stands out there as the torch that we can still do this. So we want to pay attention and hear what she has to say. She's now already a very well-respected congresswoman in Washington, D.C., and she's becoming better known throughout the country, where she goes out and works and campaigns and raises money for other Democrats. She's a proud Democrat. She's not afraid to be a Democrat and stand up for the beliefs and the values that we share. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sherry Bustos, my congresswoman.
Hello, Democrats. Thank you very much. Hello, Democrats, all the way back there and all the way back there. I'm very proud to stand up here. I would like to call out some of my colleagues who have already been up here, but I think we owe them an extra special round of applause. First of all, Senator Dick Durbin. My friend, my mentor, a treasure for the state of Illinois and for the Democratic Party. I know Tammy Duckworth had to go elsewhere, but just think about this. Think about when Senator Durbin and future Senator Tammy Duckworth are representing the state of Illinois together. Think of the powerhouse that's going to be representing Illinois for the United States of America. And my friend Robin Kelly, I think, is here somewhere. She has been relentless on fighting gun violence in the Chicago area, and we all owe her so much of our thanks for that fight that she's taking to the streets. So for those of you who don't know me, Doug, thank you very much for pointing out what we were able to win back. But I do represent the 17th District of Illinois. After defeating Bobby Schilling, before that we were lucky enough not only to have Congressman Lane Evans represent it, but also former Congressman Phil Hare, who's with us today. Phil? So this district, just for a little perspective, it has Peoria, the Quad Cities, and Rockford. And in between all that, some of the best farmland anywhere in the world, and also home to 90,000 labor households. One of the heaviest labor districts in America, and I'm very proud to say that. But I did grow up right here in Springfield, Illinois. My late father, Gene Callahan, he had a mentor also, and that was a guy named Paul Simon. And Paul Simon, is Sheila here, by the way? I know she had some, we need her to win the Senate seat in Southern Illinois. Sheila, wherever you are, stand. Wonderful human being. She needs to win that Senate seat. Please do everything you can to help her as well. But Sheila's dad and my dad worked together, and he was my father's mentor. And what he taught my dad, and my dad taught my sister and my brother and me, was that as Democrats, above all else, we help the helpless. That was something we used to hear all the time from my father. He heard it from Paul Simon. It is the fundamental belief that unites us as Democrats. And it's the fundamental belief that has led someone like Doug House and the other 101 party chairmen to make this organization as strong as it possibly can be. I've got to tell you a little bit more about Doug House since he's newer in his role. And if you haven't gotten to know him, do everything you can to get to know him. On a personal level, I would not have won my first race for Congress without the help of Doug House. He resurrected our party in Rock Island County. You might remember a guy named John Janulis. Well, we had a little bit of a hiccup in Rock Island County after that, but Doug resurrected our party. What he did is he made sure that every precinct committee slot was full. He opened up his arms and invited people in. We have an incredibly diverse party in Rock Island County now. And what he's done there is what he's doing now with this organization in 102 counties. And I'm very, very proud of that. Doug, you have been tireless. Thank you for all you've done for Democrats in the state of Illinois. I am confident that with Doug's leadership and the leadership of so many other people, we are going to win some races that I'd also like to shout out that I hope will be my future colleagues. Brad Schneider out of the 10th District. I think he's going to win. I feel very confident of that. Very pleased with that. And then we've got a couple candidates here who I hope also will be my colleagues come January when we're sworn in again. Rajna Krishnamurthy, who I believe is here somewhere, and CJ Barasivic, if you can stand up, CJ. Again, please do everything you can to help those candidates as well. They are terrific people, and I'll tell you what, I need another Democrat downstate to serve with me in Congress. Senator Durbin and I don't want to be the only downstaters in the U.S. Congress in Illinois. So, CJ, we need you to win. President Cullerton, thank you very much for mentioning Barb Brown. I want to pay a little extra attention to Barb Brown as well. Barb was greatly missed when we went to the convention just a few weeks ago. She was very, very special to me and so many people in this room. And a big reason for that is that she was one of the founding board members of an organization called the Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership. And I think it's very important that we recognize the fact that Loretta Durbin, who's the founder of that organization, with the help of some seed money from Senator Durbin, I also would not have been in my seat without the Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership, because that gave me the confidence and the know-how to win my first race for alderman in a town of 21,000 people in East Moline, Illinois, and then go on to run for Congress. So thank you, Loretta Durbin. Thank you, Barb Brown. And what I would like to do, if anybody serves on the board of the Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership or has graduated from that program, please stand up and be recognized. And you'll see the powerhouse that the Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership is. Take a look around here, you guys. If you know of anybody who you think has great potential to run for office someday and is a woman in the state of Illinois, please consider nominating them and suggesting the Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership for them. It's a tremendous organization. And I know that Barb Brown is smiling down here and is going to have a darn big grin come the night of November 8th when we've got all kinds of women winning that night. And we had mentioned before about in my district and also in Robin Kelly's and also in Jan Schakowsky's, the top 4 people on the ballot are going to be women. So we're going to start with Hillary, and then we have Susanna Mendoza, and then we have Tammy Duckworth, and in my district we'll have me. And I'm very, very proud of that. So Mike Frericks, you're going to be able to tell your daughter to buy a new plate and have Hillary Clinton on that. So she will be the first girl on that presidential plate, followed right after the first African-American president. So, what do we have at stake come November 8th? We've heard a lot about Rauner, we've heard a lot about Trump. But here's what we've seen. And you follow the news, you read the newspapers, and here's what we've seen. We've seen Donald Trump pander to working men and women one day, and then literally will turn around and say, but you're paid too much. We've seen this flip-flopping. He will say, we need to make things in America one day, but then the reality of it is that he has had sweatshops for his own organization for decades. And we have seen this reality show before, have we not, right here in Illinois? Don't we know how this story ends? We've seen it with Bruce Rauner. A heartless tycoon takes the reins of power and then uses that as a hammer to drive his toxic agenda. I call it a downturn agenda. It is certainly not a turnaround agenda. So make no mistake, Bruce Rauner and Donald Trump are cut from the same cloth. And we have seen what's happened over the last two years. We cannot see that happen to our nation for the coming 4 years. Think about Rauner cutting off aid to college kids right in the middle of their school year. Or contrast that with Donald Trump, who's fleecing people out of their life savings to attend a fake university. Rauner's ego slammed the door on victims of domestic violence. We saw that in my congressional district. We saw it all over the state. At the same time, what's Donald Trump calling women? Pigs, slobs, disgusting animals. And Rauner's trying to drive that wedge between Chicago and downstate Illinois, just at the same time that Trump is trying to drive that wedge by talking about racism, about hatred, and about religious bigotry. They are not worthy of the party of Lincoln. They are not worthy of our Midwestern values. It is our job, when we leave here today, to work tirelessly for, I guess there's 80-some days left, I've been told, to work these next 80-some days to make sure that up and down the ballot, that we win back these seats, that we take the new seats, and that we get power back in the U.S. Senate with Tammy Duckworth, who's leading the way in the nation. And then also we've got a chance at winning back the House again and taking back these seats in Illinois as well. Thank you, all you Democrats. Thanks for everything you do.
Before I introduce our next guest, there are a number of volunteers going around that they're still selling a few of the raffle tickets that are left, so if you see them coming around, you still have time to get one before the end of our program. Our next guest, our Attorney General, has one of the toughest jobs in our state. She's tasked with representing us against some of the most well-represented and well-funded criminals of our time. She does so with unflinching leadership, dignity, and humility, and she set the example for all of the state's attorneys generals in the country and leads us by example. Please help me by welcoming our Attorney General, Lisa Madigan.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Well, it is always my favorite day to be a Democrat in Illinois because we all get to come together and see the power and the strength that the Democratic Party is here in Illinois. I, too, want to say thank you to Doug House for the work that he has done, building upon his predecessors, revitalizing the Democratic County Chairs Association, and getting us all to work. Thank you, Doug. I also want to say thank you to the other 101 Democratic County Chairmen who are out there every single day getting organized, getting your precinct committeemen together, making sure people are trained on the ground, ready to make a difference in this election. As others have said, and as we all know, this is the most important election of our lifetime. And there can be no doubt about it based on what we have witnessed and what we are enduring at this point. Luckily, I would also say I have never seen an election where there is so much energy and so much emotion behind it. I'm going to tell you a quick story from when we were out in Philadelphia, because I guess it didn't occur to me, for whatever reason, that it was going to be so emotional. So on Tuesday, on the day that we did the roll call of the states, on the day that Hillary Clinton became the nominee of the Democratic Party for president, we were standing there. And Betsy Ebling, one of Hillary's oldest and dearest friends, got to put in the Illinois votes. There were tears in my eyes. And as I looked around the room, it was true of all the women. Tears in our eyes, tears coming down our cheeks, at least the middle-aged women. It does make a difference. This is an historic election. And there is an enormous amount of work that we are going to have to do to make this a reality. And so on Thursday at the convention, when Hillary came up to the podium and she gave her speech, she was so powerful. She was so presidential, in great and terrible contrast to what we had seen the week before. She showed us a lifetime of dedication, a lifetime of work, and what a difference it will make for our country when she becomes our next president. So I know we've got to get everybody going. I know we've got to get everybody motivated. And so I want to tell you about who was my next favorite speech. Our very own First Lady, Michelle Obama. Oh! As people have said, she hit it out of the park. She spoke to us as parents, and she talked to us about the example we would be setting if, God forbid, Donald Trump became our next president. And so for those of you who are looking for a quick 14-minute motivation session, I want you to go back and I want you to listen to Michelle Obama's speech. For those of you who are trying to convince people the importance of this election and why they need to get out there and vote, I want you to have them watch her speech. It is something that bridges the divides that seem to be in our country right now. It is so amazing, and I have to say, one of the best speeches I saw that entire week. And then it was one after another, after another. The Democratic bench is so deep of impassioned and inspiring speeches about the great work of this country and the great importance of this election. But I have to say to you that it was probably the testimony of the real people. The people who told the stories, often stories of tragic loss, that I think had the most impact on the hearts and the minds of all of us there and all the Americans watching TV. And so we heard from the mothers of the movement, African American women who have lost their children to gun violence. We heard from the Kahn family and that Constitution. We heard from Lauren Manning, a 9/11 survivor who had terrible burns across her body, who Hillary Clinton had called, visited, with no fanfare, with no media attention for years and years. And it spoke to me and it spoke to us about the genuine, personable, compassionate, real individual that Hillary Clinton is, that is always lost in the media, because if you were only to believe or you were only to listen to the media, you would only think that we had this cartoon character, right? I think that's how Bill described it at the convention. But she is a true and real leader and individual. Quick story for you. 14, 15 years ago, when I was first running statewide, she was in town in Chicago for a fundraiser. And somebody who had organized the fundraiser invited me and said, Lisa, why don't you come by? You'll get a chance to watch Hillary Clinton speak. And I thought, this will be great to see this in person. And so I went. And I didn't just get an opportunity to see her speak. She actually took the time when I got there, and she pulled me aside, and she asked me, how are things going? How's your race going? And a lot of you good Democrats, you were there on the front lines with me when I first ran statewide. You know that those were two brutal elections, both the primary election and then the general election. And so in essence, what Hillary did, she walked away from the people who were there to write her big checks, and she spent 5-10 minutes giving me a pep talk when she certainly had other things to do. So Hillary Clinton is for real. We have an opportunity to elect somebody with unique compassion and unique credentials. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I listened to Bill Clinton speak, I sat there and I thought to myself, I haven't heard 75% of these accomplishments, right? Right? We all knew that she had done legal aid work. I think we all knew that she had done work to help children throughout her lifetime. But I didn't know that she had gone and interviewed and tried to help migrant workers. I didn't know that she had gone to Texas and worked to actually make sure we were registering Mexican Americans to vote. I didn't know that she was working over the years to make sure that African American juveniles weren't being put into adult courts in the South. I didn't know she was really on the front lines of desegregating schools in the South. I didn't know that she had actually done work to make sure that children with disabilities were getting an education, and the list goes on and on and on. Hillary Clinton, in her heart, throughout her life, is truly a public servant. She is somebody who is absolutely committed to change and to helping and to improving other people's lives. She has been tremendously successful. I think one of my favorite signs at the convention was when we got to hold up those change maker signs, because isn't that what this is all about? Isn't that why we get involved in elections and why we work so hard day to day and throughout the year? And as we all know, and this is something when people, may have what they have to say, but when you say to them, look, Hillary Clinton is the most competent and the most qualified candidate we've probably ever had run for president. You know what people say back to you? They say, oh yeah, I know that. Well, if you know that, then why are we having this argument, right? She knows exactly what it is like to serve as President of the United States. She spent 8 years in the U.S. Senate. She has served as our Secretary of State. And so she is ready the first day. There is absolutely no question. So again, we have an opportunity to elect somebody with unique compassion and credentials as our next president. And then there's the opposition. Now, I could spend an hour, but I won't, talking about the horrors of Donald Trump, and that would just be from what he did last week. But there really is nothing funny or entertaining about the real-life possibility of Donald Trump becoming our next president. Now, everybody in this room, everybody across America, we all have our take about Donald Trump, but I'm going to tell you mine as your Attorney General, because I see characters like him every single day, right? Plain and simple, Donald Trump is nothing more than a con man. Nothing more than a con man. And he is trying to con Americans out of their votes. He's trying to con his way into the presidency. And it is terrifying. I truly believe I have never seen a more disingenuous or dangerous character run for president of the United States. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I know it appears that things are going well in the polls. But who knows who those supporters of Donald Trump are? Who knows if they've ever voted before? And who knows if they will show up in droves at the polls? This race is too close for comfort. It is an election that we cannot take for granted. And you understand the importance of this election, not just to you, but to your family and to our communities and to our country. And so we need to do absolutely everything it takes to elect Hillary Clinton as the next president of the United States. So a number of us, and I am one as well, are parents, and we have young children in our homes. And so a few months ago, my 8-year-old daughter, Lucy, stopped me on the stairs, and she said, "Mom, you have to do everything you can to make sure Hillary Clinton is elected president, because we've never had a woman president in the United States." And I looked at her and I said, "I promise you, I will do that." So ladies and gentlemen, good Democrats all, please help me keep my promise to Lucy and help me and all of us keep our promise to America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Before our last speaker, I need to mention 3 quick housekeeping things. First, I'd like to ask everyone to please stay for the raffle drawing that will follow the last speaker. Second, I'd like to remind you all that to all the county chairmen that are out there, we're going to have a very quick meeting down front after the room's cleared out. We need all of the chairmen to come back here for a very short meeting to talk about our coordinated effort around the state. The third thing I'd like to ask you is to look on your table. You'll find what I refer to as a pew envelope. So we appreciate all of the help that you've been and all the fine contributions that you've made to help this organization, but we ask you to give just that little bit more till it hurts, because it's hurting. People are hurting across this state. If you can help us out, we'd greatly appreciate it. Now, our last speaker. When people talk about saving the best for last, that's no understatement for this gentleman. We're very fortunate to have with us today one of the finest Secretary of States this state has ever known, and maybe the country has ever known. Jesse White, whether for his work in the Secretary of State's office, his military experience, or his famous tumblers, Jesse's a true Renaissance man. He is consistently one of the top vote getters across the state, and always the top vote getter in Rock Island County. So we're hoping that he sticks around for a really long time as our Secretary of State. Please help me and join me in welcoming Jesse White, our Secretary of State. Thank you, sir. Very good. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much, Doug, and thank you for a job well done to the County Chairmen's Association, the precinct committeemen and the women, and of course, perish the thought of the Democratic Party not having labor on our side. I want to thank the members of the labor industry for all that they've done to the Democratic Party. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve as Secretary of State, running the largest Secretary of State office in the nation. And my mission is to provide those meaningful services to the people in a highly professional manner and in a timely way. So no longer when you go to the Secretary of State's office do you have to bring your duffel bag, sleeping bag, or your lunch pail. I'd like to share with you a brief story. When Hillary Clinton became the Secretary of State, a gentleman down in Southern Illinois came into one of my facilities and he said, "Take that fellow's picture down. He is no longer the Secretary of State." And so the person in my office said, "No, he is the Secretary of State." "No, he is not." "But who do you think is the Secretary of State?" "Hillary Clinton is the Secretary of State." So we want Hillary Clinton to become the President of the United States. When I came into this office was a cloud of controversy, and I brought in a fellow by the name of Jim Burns. He helped me to clean up the office. And when you go to the Secretary of State's office now, you no longer have to bring your duffel bag, sleeping bag, or your lunch pail. We try to get you in and out in a timely manner. We also want you to know that it is important for you to make sure that you tell your friends and neighbors to come out and discharge their civic responsibilities, because if they don't vote, they lose their gripe rights, cannot complain about anything in society. My daughter was working hard, passing out information about me when I was running for Secretary of State, and I've held this position for the past 18 years. I want to thank you for it. And so she worked so hard passing out materials that she forgot to vote. I guess you know the rest of the story. So I want you to remember, contact your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, your mother, your father, aunt, uncle, and cousin, and make sure they come out and discharge their civic responsibilities. We have Speaker Madigan, who is here. It's important for us to make sure that we gain or retain control of the House, because you know what he has to deal with. And we have my good friend John Cullerton, who is the President of the Senate. It's important for him to have the numbers that are necessary to make sure that the services of the state of Illinois are delivered to the people in a highly professional way. Now, we're going to elect Hillary Clinton for President of the United States. Her hands will be tied because we don't have the number of congressmen, the number of senators on our side of the ledger. She will not be able to put forth her agenda. So it's important for us to make sure that we get registered and register our neighbors, friends, aunts, uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers to come out and make sure they support our ticket. When we work together, wonderful things happen, and some wonderful things are happening today. And then when we work together, as I said before, we on the Democratic side of the ledger will be victorious. Winning is for us, and losing is for someone else. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Jesse. Now's come that raffle drawing time. If everyone that has their tickets, that they'd please get them out. I ask that Hannah Percy, Jonathan Smith,